Welcome to Dr. Lotte Science with Soul, the podcast that transcends the boundaries between science and spirituality. Prepare to be uplifted, transformed, and awakened to create a path to healing your own life physically, emotionally, and spiritually by bridging the gap between science and soul. Welcome back to Dr. Lotte Science with Soul. Today, I'm very excited to introduce Jonathan Goldman, MA, who is an international authority and founding pioneer in the field of sound healing. He is the author of numerous books, including The 7 Secrets of Sound Healing and the best-selling The Humming Effect, co-authored with his wife, Andi Goldman, which won a 2018 Gold Visionary Award for Health Books. His classic, Healing Sounds, has just had a special 30th anniversary edition released. Jonathan is director of the Sound Healers Association, president of Spirit Music Incorporated in Boulder, Colorado, and founder of World Sound Healing Day. A Grammy nominee, he has created over 25 best-selling, award-winning recordings, including CHAKRA CHANTS, The Divine Name with Gregg Braden, Frequencies, Sounds of Healing, and REIKI CHANTS. Jonathan has been named as one of Watkins Mind Body Spirit magazine's 100 most spiritually influential living people. He has been inducted into the Massage Therapy Hall of Fame, and in 2023, Jonathan received the Distinguished Person of the Year Award from the Association for Comprehensive Energy Psychology for his pioneering contribution to the field of sound and energy. So welcome, Jonathan. I am so excited to have you as a guest on my podcast today because I discovered you over 20 years ago. So a warm welcome to you, Jonathan.
Dr. Lotte, what a blessing it is to be talking to you and your audience. It's a gift. Thank you. It's my purpose for being on the planet.
Right. I have so many questions. So this podcast could literally last for hours, but we're gonna try and squeeze in as much as we can within the next 45 minutes or so. But I was just tickled when you accepted the invitation to be on my podcast because I started using tuning forks over 20 years ago, and I got this set. It was a beginner set, and it says the tone G384 and C256, and I literally used to tune my kids. And I said, okay, you guys are being too wild. You have to come over here. And I would, hit them on my knee and then hold them up to either side of their ear. And it just calms them down. I said, wow, if parents just knew that this is what it does. And it continued for years because they really enjoyed it. So can you tell us, how can sound be used to heal? And what are the basic principles of this sound healing?
Yes, and thank you, and wonderful. And I will just share that this weekend, my wife Andi and I were teaching at as the keynote for a bioenergetic medical conference to these doctors. And we actually worked with those tuning forks, teaching them. And we also taught them about the power of the hum, all sorts of things that we're going to talk about briefly in this our time together. How can sound be used to heal? Okay, basic premise of what is the basic principle of using sound as a healing modality? It's the idea that everything in the universe is in a state of vibration. Our physicists and our ancient mystics are in agreement about that. In the beginning was the word, and quantum physics talks about everything being in a state of vibration. Sound travels as a wave form. We hear from about 16 of these waves per second. That's called hertz, 16 hertz to around 16,000. But our friends in the ocean, the dolphins, can hear upwards of 180,000 cycles a second. So just because we can't hear the sound doesn't mean that there isn't a sound. And in fact, everything is in a state of vibration, from the electrons moving around the nucleus of an atom to planets and distant galaxies moving around their suns. They're all in a state of vibration, and conceptually, this vibration can be perceived of as being sound. And this includes our body. Every organ, every bone, every tissue, every part of our body is in a state of vibration. When we're in health, we say we're in sound health. and every organ, every bone, every tissue is in a natural, healthy state of harmonic resonance. We're like this overall orchestra that is playing the symphony of the self. But what happens if the second violin player loses their sheet music? They begin to play off. Pretty soon the entire string section sounds off, and actually pretty soon the entire orchestra is off. And this is, if you like, a metaphor for a part of our body vibrating out of its natural, healthy harmonic resonance. And it begins to vibrate out of ease, out of harmony, and we say it is dis-ease. So the basic, if you like, idea of using sound as a healing modality is simply to give this string player back their sheet music, to somehow project the correct resonant frequency back into the body, mind, spirit, etheric field, whatever you're talking about, because everything is interconnected. And I'm just also going to suggest that this is not only the premise of sound healing, but most of the alternative therapies, whether it's homeopathy, chiropractic, acupuncture, chromotherapy, I can go on. And as a naturopath, there's a similarity in that too, isn't there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love your analogy of the orchestra. And it's just, I'm listening to your book, The Humming, about the humming right now. And it
Yes.
started out by describing if one instrument is out of tune, that I think you said they lost the sheet music, the violinist lost the sheet music. I used to have that exact analogy on my website. Imagine the body is like an orchestra. And if the violins are out of tune, and I didn't do the lost the sheet music, I said, if the violins are out of tune, then that's going to affect the whole orchestra and everything else is going to get out of tune. I just started laughing when I heard that was your exact analogy. I said, wow, this man, we're thinking alike.
We give thanks in that one. Now, with that in mind, I'd like to suggest that sound is an incredible energy form. It is a subtle energy. And on a level, it's the most powerful subtle energy because it's the least subtle. It has slow moving vibrational waveforms that literally affect the physical plane really solidly. In fact, there are two ways that we get affected by sound. One is called psychoacoustics. And with these tuning forks, if I were to hit these tuning forks and bring them to my ear, that would be psychoacoustics, where the sound goes into our ear, into our brain, affecting our nervous system, our heart rate, our respiration, our brain waves. The other is called vibroacoustics, and we actually have tuning forks that have little discs on the end, but when you hit them and you put them on the body, they go into the body on a very, very powerful level, affecting us down to our cells and our DNA. Here's a quote from the New York Times, February 8th, 1988. It was easy to remember, a lot of eights in that one. Sound shaped into a dazzling tool can make, break, or rearrange molecular structure. So we're talking about an energetic form that can rearrange molecular structure. So when people say, what sort of conditions can sound take care of? I say, well, conceptually, because I'm saying, I'm not, but conceptually, if you can rearrange molecular structure, what can you deal with?
Yeah, what exactly? I mean, I think there is a limitless potential of what's going to come from that, because we already know that, like you said, these big, I have some of those big ones here, the big,
that one,
little balls on the end, right?
That's an example. If since you got that immediately available, mine are out of reach. If you hit that and then place a stem on your, that's an example of vibroacoustics, and you can feel that go into your body.
Yeah, you feel the vibration, right? And you can make things work. I know my daughter uses it if she gets these. It's not really a vertigo thing, but she gets dizzy, and then on the opposite side, she'll use this tuning fork and run it along the shin, and the dizziness goes away. I mean, it's like magic.
Oh,
It's magical.
I
right?
never
So
traveled.
what can we not heal with these tuning forks and vibrational frequencies? I think it's the future of medicine, really.
I think so too, and I think everything works together. I'm such an advocate of just not sticking with one therapy, but using whatever works at a particular time. We have, if you like, a phenomenon, I'll share it with you very briefly, but we call it the 4 pillars of sound healing. And I'm just going to share those for you and your audience. The first one is everything is vibration. We just talked about that with sound and everything. The second one is that intent is powerful. And that really came from a discovery that I made back in the 1980s when I was literally doing a master's dissertation for Lesley University on sound healing. And I had a pile of papers of different, if you like, frequencies and different tones and mantras that were being used by different scientists, healers, spiritual masters. And coming from a family of doctors, I thought, oh, okay, here I am. I am going to be the first person, at least in modern times, who's going to put this all together. And instead, they just didn't align. They were not, if you like, in correlation. And I was, Dr. Lotte, so upset because coming from a family of doctors and having a pretty well-developed left brain, I thought, how can this be? And I was, if you like, in a state of intellectual angst. And then this inner voice said, it is not only the frequency of the sound that creates its effect, it is also the intention of the person making and receiving the sound. And I wrote down frequency plus intent equals healing. And that came in the mid-1980s is when I first manifested that. And I have to admit that I'm seeing it all over the place now as a formula, and I love it. Because back then I was dealing with the scientific and medical communities, and I'd say to these doctors, hey, have you ever thought of the importance of intentionality? And they'd look at me like I was a man from outer space, which I well may be, but they weren't supposed to know it. Now,
Yeah.
blessings, we have people such as Wayne, Dr. Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza. We have the work of Masaru Emoto, who did these splendid photographs of water crystals that were exposed to different, if you like, intentionalities and whatnot, showing them. So this is so very, very important. So nowadays, I can talk to people. I mean, once again, Andi and I spoke to this room full of energy medicine doctors, and they took for granted that intent was really a major focal point in the whole relationship of the effect of sound and other vibratory fields. 40 years ago, it was really strange. Okay, the next one, so the second pillar is intent is powerful. The third one, we are all unique vibratory beings. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say that whenever we do a workshop, and I love it, I would say, okay, how many of you are allergic to penicillin? Because conceptually, if everything is vibration, then penicillin is a series of vibrations. And usually anywhere from 5 to 20% of an audience will raise their hand. I said, okay, and this is a great metaphor for everything. For 80% or even 90% of you, penicillin is going to be a healing frequency or set of frequencies. But for 5 to 20%, it's going to be toxic. And that's so important for us to own and honor, because this way we can literally honor the fact that if something is not resonating well with us, we can own it and say, hey, I don't like that. Because too many times people say, this is the healing frequency for you, this is the healing supplement for you, this is the healing X, Y, or Z. And it's not going to work for everyone. And just as an aside, just last week, I came across this information. There's something called musical anhedonia. I didn't know this existed. Anhedonia is a condition where you don't like or don't experience pleasure for something. But it's when people do not like or experience pleasure or any sort of comfort from music. 5 to 10% of our population suffers from this. 5% it's a neurological disorder due to some sort of brain trauma. But 5%, they don't know why, but people just don't get music. I was floored. I thought everybody got music. No.
Is it specific sounds? Is it the lower frequency sounds or?
Anything. It could be Bach, Beethoven, or whatnot. They just, or the Beatles, or whatever. They don't get music. I mean, they can hear it, but it's sort
Mhm.
of like people who perhaps, I'm gonna use this as a metaphor because I don't know if it's correct, but who can't smell. I mean, or if they smell, they just don't, they're dead to it. Okay, so 3 is we're all unique vibratory beings, and 4 is silence is golden. And that is just the power of sound. Silence is the yin to the yang of sound. Dr. Lotte, I will tell you that I've been in this field for 40 years, and sound is just emerging in everybody's vocabulary. Everyone's talking about frequencies. Everybody's talking about X, Y, or Z with sound, which is great. But sound is only part of the phenomena. Silence is truly the place where the true shift and change occurs. So if you are listening to sound or making sound, you need to be in silence in order for the shift and change to occur. Does that make sense?
That is interesting. So you're listening to the music, the frequency, but and then you set the intention, but then you also need the silence for the shift to happen. It doesn't happen with when you hear the frequency.
No, I believe silence is the yin to the yang
Mm,
of sound. They're all one
interesting.
thing. It is, if you like, a
Okay.
wave and then
Yeah.
stop, and then there's the wave.
Yeah.
And too many people don't know this, so they go from one sound to another sound, which
Hmm.
doesn't give the sound the time to encode itself into the body, mind, and spirit. It's very important. It took me 20 years to learn that. And once I learned it, I was going, wow, this is really important, because people can become so enamored with listening to the
Hmm.
sounds that they don't then get to that space of just being in the silence. Remember that the word silent and the word listen are anagrams.
Hmm.
The words silent and listen have the same letters in them,
Yeah.
which is interesting and I think totally metaphoric.
Yeah. Right. I mean, everything, it makes sense because it's all, everything mirrors everything else and everything has an opposite in
Yeah.
order to function, right? Everything in our world has an opposite, the yin and the yang of everything. So why not? Of course, it has to be there for sound as well. In order for it to work, you have the sound, you have the silence. Because without the silence, you can't have the sound and vice versa, right? And so, but they work together because
Yeah.
everything is a function of everything else, right? So everything mirrors everything else. So absolutely fascinating. So do you feel that, I know I'm listening to your humming book right now,
Yes.
and you're, I'm sitting there doing the exercises, humming. Oh, now I feel it in my chest. Now I feel
Yeah.
it further down. Now I feel it in my head. So, it, tell me about that. What really happens when we're humming?
Okay. First of all, I'm going to tell you why we we uh, we do this, and then because basically I have been in this field for 40 years. I am well versed in all sorts of sounds, from everything from Tibetan deep voice to harmonic sound, harmonic overtone singing, to mantras, to XYZ. I work with tuning forks. I work with Tibetan bowls. I work with crystal balls. I work with all sorts of scientific instruments, etc. But I wanted to provide a tool that people could utilize themselves all the time. And unfortunately, or fortunately, the voice is perhaps the most powerful tool we have. It doesn't require electricity or batteries. The owner's manual is relatively easy to use, and everyone's got one. It's pretty inexpensive, no problem, except that so many people have such judgment about their voice. Whether it's due to, shows like American Idol or whatnot that have put words like pitchy, everyone is judgmental about their voice. Oh, I don't have a good voice, etc. So my wife Andi and I were going, okay, wow, what's a sound that everybody can deal with that nobody's judgmental about? And we looked at each other and we went, hmm. And and so we began. I said, okay, let's write a book on humming. So we began to do this, and as we went deeper and deeper into the power of humming. In fact, here is the book, The Humming Effect, held up for you. It is an award-winning, best-selling book, and I love it because that simply means that people have really accepted it. Once again, babies hum, the elderly hum. We hum unconsciously when we're happy. It's the sound everybody makes. And as we began to investigate deeper and deeper, we found profound, powerful therapeutic effects and spiritual effects from the simple but profound hum. We said, okay, great. This is great. This is going to be the first book on humming. How are people possibly going to take the topic of humming seriously? So we had to make the first chapter nothing more or less than peer-reviewed information about the power of the hum. And I love it. So I'll just share a few of the things. But number one, and I think this is the most important thing, we do something called conscious humming, and I'm going to share this with you. I'm going very quickly, and in order for people to further their, if you like, interest, either get the humming effect, listen to the audible of it or whatnot, because it's so powerful and so important. But the aspect of the peer-reviewed fact, I guess the most important thing for me is that simply, if you do just even a few hums, you get an instant, within seconds, maybe a minute, a reduction of heart rate and respiration. Your blood pressure goes down. I started doing this for myself just to check it out after I'd written about it, but I finally said, okay, I'm going to do this for a while. And within about a minute to 2 minutes, my blood pressure would go down 20 points. Now that's pharmaceutical in nature. And I think that's so important for people. I suffer from what's called white coat syndrome. You may be familiar, but I get in front of a doctor and go,
I do too. I get it. It's kind of funny when you're a doctor yourself.
So doing some conscious humming for even 3, 4, 5 times will lower your heart rate. But the important thing that you got to do, and this, I'm always learning. I would do this and nothing would happen. Then I did it and I was in silence for an equal amount of time. And it was in the silence, after the silence, all of a sudden my blood pressure went really, really much lower. So once again, silence is such an important part of making the sound. So you get the, reduction of blood pressure, very, very important. You get the reduction of stress-related hormones such as cortisol. You get the release of melatonin, which is a wonderful and natural tool for helping enhance sleep and other phenomena. You get the release of oxytocin, which is the trust hormone. One of my favorite is the release of nitric oxide. And now nitric oxide has really hit big time in terms of people saying, oh, nitric oxide. Yeah, it does. And I've been a fan of nitric oxide for quite a while. It won the Molecule of the Year in Science magazine back in the 1990s. And now, I mean, it's understood as being a vasodilator, which means it loosens and widens the circulatory system, allowing oxygen, all sorts of things, nutrients to go through your, through your circulatory system. But another important thing is that it is an antiviral agent. So when you hum, and when you do conscious humming, you get 15 times the amount of nitric oxide that is normally generated in our breathing and breath. It's generated in the nasal cavity and can be used to take care of all sorts of nasty critters. I used to get, and I still do get, emails from people who'd say, I suffer from sinusitis and I was on all sorts of different pharmaceuticals. They didn't work. I started doing this and in a very short time. And then I found, yay, some peer-reviewed stuff from the Karolinska Institute, which is from Sweden, and they had done that, and they indeed found the same thing. So that's very, very cool. Also, you get reduced, actually, you get heart rate variability. I think you know about that, which is basically also a wonderful tool for stress reduction. Also, you get enhanced vagal toning. The vagus nerve is, in fact, there are two ways that you can consciously affect positively your vagus nerve. One is through nice, deep diaphragmatic breathing, and the other is through humming.
Yeah, I can see that, because it comes back. It's like the whole body again. One thing affects the other, and if you can get that vibration going. It's funny that you said that the research came out of the Karolinska Institute in Sweden.
Yeah.
That's where my dad was a physician at Karolinska Hospital, and my brother, who is a surgeon, has also been a physician at that hospital.
No
So very
kidding.
familiar with that hospital. I've been there many, many times as a child.
Never been there, but I read the research and I went through it quite, it's quite cool because once again, it's so important for a lot of people to feel that there's validity in these things. Otherwise, they may disregard it. And therefore, if it's, peer reviewed, all of a sudden it's real. And that's cool. So talking about humming, and I am so grateful that you're there in terms of experiencing the humming effect. You're doing the audible of it?
I'm listening to the audiobook.
Yeah, and that was actually, I feel like, vocalized by a friend of ours who's got a wonderful voice by the name of Jay Cruz. I am not a good reader. And I said, it would take me years to get this right. And he's a kind of a radio announcer type of thing. And, but can we talk about a little bit more about humming?
Yeah, go.
Okay. So, I'm going to give you the protocols of conscious humming just because here we are. The first one is you take a nice, deep, relaxed breath. I mean, if you like, and this, of course, a deep diaphragmatic breathing is a real key to everything on the planet in terms of health and balance. Yeah. So we take a nice deep breath. But the second thing is to keep your lips closed. This may seem rudimentary, but a lot of people will go, oh, I said, no, that's not a hum. You have to keep your lips closed. And then as a fun thing, we'll do this together if it's okay with you.
Yep.
I want you to be, but we'll do this in just a second. The third thing is that you sound on one note. You don't do zippity-doo-dah, Beethoven's fifth or Tchaikovsky's fifth or whomever, or sing, you hit one note and you hold it. And also you do it in a comfortable sound, not too loud, and also within the comfortable level of your voice. A lot of people are looking for their tone, and usually their tone or their frequency, signature frequency, is the conversational voice. And so we do that there. So we're going to do a couple of more just because we're here and I think it's important. But first I want you to just do a hum, and then pinch your nose. Have you done this one?
I have. It's very funny.
Okay.
So, all right. So a hum. Okay. So it just goes away.
And I'll do this too. You can't hum if your nose is pinched. And if you didn't know that, perhaps there are other things about the hum. And bottom line is that when you hum, the hum is the most powerful vibroacoustic sound that we can make, simply because as you begin to open your mouth, then the sound begins to go outward as opposed to being totally self-contained within the sinus cavity, and you lose a lot of the sonic energy. So the most powerful vibroacoustic sound that we can make is the hum. And just to continue the protocols of conscious humming, is we usually suggest that you hum for about 4 to 5 times, and then you be in silence for the same amount of time. And when that happens, that's really, when you're in the silence, all of a sudden you really experience I get very blissed out and very, very relaxed. Would you like to do that for a moment as a thing together?
Sure.
Does that feel appropriate for this program?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Let's go for it.
Okay. So we'll do like 4 hums together, and then we'll be in silence. And because this is, of course, a podcast, we don't want people to be sitting there waiting. So we want everyone to hum along with us in your own comfortable place, but try it. It's really amazing. But the first thing you do, just anyone who's listening now or forever, check yourself out first, because you really need to see what this is doing. So just take a moment as you breathe in, see how you're feeling. And when we do this hum, because this is just the first introduction to conscious humming, we want to, probably suggest people close their eyes when they do this, and do it in a comfortable place where there isn't a lot of distraction, if you can. And we're not even going to be, putting any sort of intentionality on it. That's the next step. You got that in the humming effect, and that you can do extraordinary things. But the first one, just to see where you feel the vibrations of the hum, because it's going to be different for most people. But most people have never consciously hummed because they're doing which, and this is going to be different. So we'll take a nice deep breath. And one more nice deep breath. Now this next one will sound forth with the first of 4 hums, okay? Again. Again. And one more. And now just being in silence and checking yourself out again. What are you experiencing? And normally, if I do this, I'm in silence a lot more, but since this is a podcast and nobody needs to necessarily see us sitting there with our eyes closed or whatnot, but I got very blissed out and relaxed. How was that for you?
Oh, yeah, very relaxed. I can see how the blood pressure is dropping 20 points, right? Because it just relaxes your body when you go into that state, and the humming.
Today, I just realized, even though I talk about this that when I was humming, it literally shut off whatever, they call it the monkey mind, but that inner dialogue that's always happening, it just shuts it off because it's like you're humming and you feel the vibrations, you're there. So I couldn't feel it. Where did you feel the vibrations of the hum?
Actually mostly felt it inside my skull
Yes,
because the
yes,
tone was higher. I noticed that when I'm listening to the book and I'm doing the exercises along, that
yeah.
if I hum a deeper tone, I feel it more in my chest or further down. It's almost like my body is a scale with the higher tones in my head and the lower tones go down. But I'm not sure if it's true. It's just what I'm
No,
discovering, reading
that's
or listening.
that's 100% A, true, but B, you haven't gotten to it yet, but we have a chapter called the humming hypothesis.
Mhm.
uh, or maybe you have gotten to it, but it really talks about the fact that when I was engaged in this PhD program, which I dropped out of because my first book, The Healing Sounds, came out and I had to go on tour and I never got back to it. But I was basically going to be researching what I called well, I don't remember what I called it actually because it's gone through a number of names, but it's the potential of the human voice to create neurogenesis or new neural synaptic connections in the brain. And there now is a lot of indication that, for example, Alzheimer's can be, and memory loss can be treated using a certain frequency level that's around 40 to 60 hertz. And do you know that when you hum, if you like, subharmonic of the voice is around 40 to 60 hertz, and you can literally uh, feel it there. So I'm suggesting that anybody who is a little concerned or who, shall we say, wants to like shake up their mind and brain a little bit, do a little humming.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you because I think it has way more healing effect than we think it does. Because we're the frequencies of the humming is the frequency, but we also work with laser, right? We have laser equipment, which is
Yeah,
also frequencies that
yeah.
also we know makes new neural pathways and heals, conditions that the regular Western medicine has given up on. So I think this whole frequencies, it's just the new medicine that's coming, and it's been in the works for so long already, but I
Well,
think to hit the mainstream, if we could, if just imagine if we had these capabilities, more readily available for people that are sick. If physicians were informed that this is a therapy that, you might still do the pharmaceutical, but this is something else we can add, right? And create a complete holistic package for healing.
beautiful. And I mean, Alzheimer's is something that a lot of people, as they begin to age, are worried about. And what if this could be used as a adjunct to other therapies? I am actually beginning just now to work with some doctors to see if they can do some research, because only through the research will people finally, if you like, believe that this is real. But meanwhile, until the research is out, I think we could all just try it and experience some of the therapeutic benefits of the conscious hum.
Absolutely. Do you think that, so this is all frequencies. We know that it rearranged the molecules and all that. How can we use frequencies or sound or humming to heal the planet? I mean, our planet is in such turmoil right now. Is there anything that we could do? I mean, what if, we had thousands of people humming for peace? What are your thoughts on that?
I think there is actually a website, Humming for Peace, but it's from Japan. I haven't been able to get in touch with them because they're in Japanese and they don't seem to understand what I'm saying. But we have an event at least once a year called World Sound Healing Day that takes place on February 14th, Valentine's Day, where tens of thousands of people basically project sound coupled with the intention of love and compassion to what I call the Gaia matrix. And literally, there is if you like, a phenomena that has been researched by Princeton University, and with an organization called the Global Consciousness Project. Without getting too complex about what that is, it's able to measure events of high compassion. And they found events that occur, for example, through global meditation or global toning, such as World Sound Healing Day, literally are measurable and demonstrable and do make an effect. And in fact, I'm going to invite anyone who's listening or watching whenever to go check out Sound Satsang with Jonathan Goldman, because once a month, my wife Andi and I do a live broadcast that is also on the internet. We get thousands of people checking it out. And part of it, we do about a 10-minute guided either om, ah, or hum type of thing. And it works also. We're very big advocates of heart-brain coherence, which I'm sure you are aware of. I was generated through first the HeartMath Institute, and simply it's very deep breathing, basically done with gratitude. And it's that simple, and there's some techniques, and many people have their own techniques. But when you do that, our electromagnetic field gets generated anywhere from 50 to 500 to some even speculate 5,000 times greater. And Dr. Lotte, I will tell you that the missing ingredient for them, and it's simply a missing ingredient simply because they said to me, well, Jonathan, we know this is true, do the research. I'm not a research guy, so I can just suggest that there is a reason why the different prayers on our planet are vocalized, so whispered, chanted, spoken, or sung. And that is because sound amplifies the power of our prayers. It helps focus it. And this is why. So when we get into, if you like, intentionalized breathing, heart-brain coherence, and then just even do that, it really creates even a greater field. And what we want to do is amplify our positive power for shift and change so that we can live in a harmonized planet. We say that World Sound Healing Day, we are attempting to create global harmonization, harmony on our planet. And we need to do that. I'm going to just get one more thing in. One of the things that I have for the last few years really been adamant about is that it's so important for us to practice compassionate understanding, which is basically to listen to both sides of an argument and not make someone wrong, because we are in such a state of division on this planet because of so many different things. And try to understand where the other person who you may not agree with is coming from. You don't need to agree with them, but don't make them necessarily bad, because that's not going to assist them. Even if you think what they're doing is heinous, try to understand, why do they feel this way? And sometimes you go, okay, well, I can understand that. I may not agree with that. And what can we do to shift so that we can basically come to a point of kindness, compassion with each other?
Yes, that is what's needed. A lot more compassion in the world today.
Yeah.
Beautiful ending words to this amazing podcast. So how can people learn more about that? The monthly event that you have, is that the sound satsang?
Well, if they go to my website, which is healingsounds.com, and they join our mailing list, that's one of the events. They'll get information on all sorts of other things related to sound, compassion, healing our planet, including World Sound Healing Day. And Dr. Lotte, let me just conclude with my statement. My wife Andi and I often say, we heal the planet, we heal ourselves. We heal ourselves, we heal the planet. We have a choice, and we can make a difference.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I say that myself, for every person that I can help heal, because we are all connected. And so that frequency that we give off once we heal ourselves changes other people that then resonate and train with us. I don't know if it's truth to that, but that's how I see it. You're the frequency expert.
That is such a truth. That is such a truth. And I mean, beings like ourselves, and I trust that anyone who's experiencing this at any time and space, because it's also my belief that time and space are merely, if you like, constructs of a less evolved mind, because everything is happening at the same time all over the place. And we are all connected, and we are all one, or as the Beatles said, I am you, as you are me, and we are all together, and we are all together, huh?
Yes, we definitely are. We're all connected.
Yeah.
So, everybody, we're going to put his website in the podcast notes, healingsounds.com. And go also and check out all his books. I'm sure they're available on Amazon and on many different other platforms, and all his music that I've been listening to his music for over 20 years.
I haven't spoken about my music. I've got over 25 award-winning albums, and they're on Spotify, Amazon, iTunes, you name it, they're all over the place. I'm so involved in right now trying to get people to just shift the vibratory field through their own voice, but through listening to my music and the music of so many other wonderful people. It's so powerful. And listen, the last thing I want to say, I got to add this one, because we were talking about, once again, the fact that intent is powerful and everything is vibration. So in our conversational voice, folks, be aware that you can project your intentionality, and if you project compassion and kindness in your conversational voice, you can use a conversational voice as a healing instrument.
Powerful, right? Things that we don't usually think about, but absolutely true, because the frequency, that's your frequency, is your voice as well.
Yes, it is.
Well, it's been an absolute treasure to have you as a guest today, Jonathan. And thank you so much for taking the time and sharing so much with the audience today.
Dr. Lotte, thank you for this experience. We send blessings of light and love through sound to everyone. Thank you.
As we conclude this episode, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude for your presence within our community. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with friends and family. Subscribe to my newsletter in the show notes and receive new podcast episodes delivered right to your inbox. If you resonate with the interconnectedness of mind, body, and soul, and are motivated to embark on a journey of personal healing, I invite you to connect with me at drlotte.com. Together, we can pave a path towards transformative healing in your own life.